Hello, my name is Zach Blankenship here at Lynch Lake Historical Society Museum, and here we're talking about the Revolution, specifically the Siege of Charleston. We talked about the first siege, how Sullivan's Island actually repelled the British against them. However, in this siege, the start of the Southern campaign after the fall of Savannah, we actually get to see the first major loss in the Revolution within the fall of Charleston. This is important because a lot of produce and a lot of goods come through Charleston from the south. February 16th, 1780. That is when General Clinton of the British starts heading towards Long Island, towards John's Island. Within John's Island, he starts pushing towards and digging first parallels starting on April 1st. These are dug by runaway slaves who believe in the Dunmore Proclamation. This proclamation basically says that if a slave works for the British, not only will he be granted his freedom, but would also be granted land. To make a long, complicated siege short, by May 17th, 1780, General Lincoln, who was commander of the entire South for the American Revolutionaries, surrenders to General Clinton of the British in what's called an unconditional surrender, meaning that Clinton cannot give any conditions to his surrender, that whatever Clinton does, Lincoln has to agree to. And when Charleston falls, a lot of the southern forts along with Patriots fall with it. This ends up being very detrimental towards the revolutionaries, however, begins sparks of Francis Marion, Thomas Sumter, as well as eventually getting the wise old owl, otherwise known as Andrew Pickens, starting in the war again. Here we're talking about the first battle loss, which is the first Battle of Camden. This battle was between, you have General DeKalb, Horatio Gates, the hero of Saratoga, as well as General Cornwallis and Colonel Tarleton. Now, the reason we call him the hero of Saratoga is because he actually was the commanding general in charge of Saratoga, which was a battle and ends up with the Americans winning victory and getting the French and the Spanish on our side as well. Now, this battle, both parties weren't wanting to fight originally. They kind of ends up meeting up and they start to fight. Now, based on placement, a lot of stuff happens here. The Patriot militia are placed on the left side due to Gates, and he puts the experienced Continentals on his right flank. What ends up happening is the British do the opposite. They put their experience on the right and their inexperience on the left. Now, unlike the Patriot militia, the Loyalist militia actually had some combat experience. The Patriots militia fires one or two shots and then automatically retreats and falls. And because that falls, Tarleton, otherwise known as Bloody Tarleton, we can talk about that later, ends up coming to the side and actually encircles and kills DeKalb, the North Carolina Continentals, as well as the Virginia Continentals. This ends up being a huge defeat on Horatio Gates and ends up him losing the spot of being the general in charge of the Southern campaign for the Americans. The reason Tarleton is called Bloody Tarleton is just a week or two earlier, on May 28th, what's known as Buford's Massacre. Tarleton and his 250 men surround General Buford, and two stories go, as they were surrendering or as they surrendered, Tarleton and his men end up killing huge numbers of them. And within this begins his name as Bloody Tarleton. After Camden, you keep hearing cries for Buford, against Charleston, or for Waxhaw, all for this battle. This ends up doing the opposite effect of what the British want. They wanted South Carolinians as well as other people from the South, to kind of understand and bow down to the British, to accept their rule. This actually enrages, especially in the backcountry. This enrages them so much that they fight harder and more against them. We hope to continue this, and we hope to see you again here at Lynch Lake Historical Society Museum.